வாழ்க வையகம், வாழ்க வையகம், வாழ்க வளமுடன். Now, Hari Bose will give a lecture on anatomy of human soul. Hari, are you ready?
Yeah, I'm ready. வாழ்க வளமுடன். Let me share my screen.
Hari, you can also start recording if you wish. I'll also do it at this end. I have enabled recording for you as well. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Shakti. Let me try that. I think it started recording. So, is everybody can see my screen?
Yes.
Let me make it a little bigger. Okay. So, வாழ்க வளமுடன். Guru Vanakkam. Today, let me do this presentation in English. If anybody wants, we can do it in Tamil later. So, this is an attempt. It's my lifelong quest to get an idea or to understand the soul. So, I thought let me take that as my first speech and try to put my thoughts and ideas to everybody. So that's why I gave this topic, anatomy of human soul. So little disclaimer, this presentation is an attempt to connect the dots or common beliefs about human soul. This is just my understanding and an endeavor to serve you the concept of Vedatriyam and other scientific and philosophical thinking in one bowl. Criticism, of course, and debates over the content of the presentation is more than welcome because whatever I put together here may not be 100% or it is not the final correct thing to say. Okay, so this everybody would have seen this movie. It's called Mayavan. This is a science fiction movie. It intrigued my thinking about soul and concept. In this movie, a person just transfers his memories and desires thinking to different bodies using microchips and brain activity. But that made me to think whether as a human being, as a person, is just the thinking, just thoughts and memories, or is there anything else to it? But our philosophies and religion doesn't say that we don't just stop with our desires and thinking. It could be much more to it. But this science fiction movie really intriguing and it puts us in a different perspective. It may be a possibility. We say, I'm a person, but we are just a person of memories, thinking, and our habits. We don't know much more to it anyway. So let's explore in this perspective what a person could be, what a soul could be. So what we are going to discuss in this presentation is these points. What is the view of religion and faith? Of course, we all may know what it is. And what science to say about soul, what philosophy talks about soul. Hello. What Vedatriyam? Shall I continue? Is there any problem?
Proceed, please proceed. I think there is.
Okay. What Vedatriyam says about soul, what is a genetic center or sanskar or samskara or impressions? What is the difference between a human and an animal sanskar? Or what's the difference between a human and divine? And ways to reach the divinity? What is the take home? So these are the points we're going to discuss today. Let's get into the religion first. We all know all of the or most of the religion in the world believes in eternal soul, and they all believe in hell and heaven. Either it could be Islam or it could be Christianity or it could be Hinduism. Everybody believes in hell and heaven. Only Hinduism differs in one point, which is the samsara, cycle of life and death. The eternal soul earns either pleasure or suffering in heaven or hell after this worldly life based on its past karma, which is the common belief between all the religions. For Hinduism says after the tenure either in hell or heaven or in both based on their karmas, The soul takes its rebirth and undergoes the cycle again in order for it to learn and grow from it. So that's about religion. I didn't touch much on it because everybody knows what religion talks, and it's no point in discussing it over here. Maybe we can slightly touch on what science to say about soul. So Dr. Raymond Modi, he's philosopher, psychologist, and physician and author. He coined the word near-death experiences in 1975 in his best-selling book, Life After Life. I read this book, and it was really interesting, although it is not completely aligned with our Vedatriyam, but it gives some insights to us. According to him, consciousness, I call that a soul, but he mainly define it as consciousness, is an independent entity of the body, from the body. Soul assumes a light body similar to the physical body. It can see, hear, float, and it can feel. It can have all the emotions and can fly as well. The soul can cross solid materials too. So, but it is invisible to the people in material world. On the other hand, the soul can see everybody. Dr. Peter Fenwick, a highly regarded neuropsychiatrist again, who has been studying the human brain, consciousness, and the phenomenon of near-death experience for over 50 years. Fenwick also believes that consciousness actually exists independently and outside of the brain as an inherent property of the universe itself, like dark matter and dark energy or a gravity. Another personality, Dr. Bruce Lipton, probably everybody would have known him for his famous book, The Biology of Belief. Bruce is an American developmental biologist, notable for his views on epigenetics. I think he is the person who coined the word epigenetics. In his book, he claims that the beliefs control human biology rather than a DNA or inheritance. So the DNA can be changed based on our belief and based on our convictions. So Dr. Bruce believes human beings are the cosmic energy broadcasted into the physical body like a movie in a television. So we are independent of this body. By believing and by doing the repetition or repetitive thinking, we can program our brain and thereby change anything with the body. We can cure the disease, live longer, we can stop aging. So anything is possible just by believing. So his epigenetics is more closely related to the wave theory, which we have in Vedatriyam. So what philosophies talks about? So we have seen religion, we've touched on science as well, and we'll have to talk about philosophy too. Buddhism, I didn't consider this as a religion because Buddhist, for me, it looks more scientific religion, and they talk more about mind rather than just beliefs. And also Buddha himself told his disciples, just don't believe whatever I say and don't stop there. You have to experiment it yourself and learn more. It could be more to it. So, and it looks more scientific too, and which is closer to Vedatriyam as well. So Buddhism again does not believe in a creator or an eternal or everlasting soul like we do. Buddhists believe that there is no permanent self or soul because there is no unchanging permanent essence. Buddhists believe in stream of consciousness, which is residing in a physical body, and they think it can take rebirth. Another close thinking I would take from Brahmakumaris. Brahmakumaris believe in permanent soul. PK believe in reincarnation, similar to Hinduism. However, the only difference is every soul is like a seed. It can only take birth in the same species. A man's soul cannot take birth as an animal at any circumstances. The BK's concept of soul is similar to other philosophy, that is, soul is made of three components: mind, intellect, and sanskars, or resolves or impressions. The dissection brings the concept closer to genetic center. The sanskar are genetic, and anyway, Vedatri is talking about the mind, and consciousness and sanskar as well. there's one more researcher, or I would say yogi, Pandit Sri Ram Sharma Acharya. He was a freedom fighter, yogi, and a researcher, eminent scholar and visionary. In 1979, he founded a organization called Brahmavachas Research Institute. The research institute is in Haridwar, which is dedicated to the integration of the modern and ancient sciences in practical way, motivated by the noble goal of health and happiness to all. So he has written a book called Life Beyond Physical Death. This book was given to me by one of my friends, and it was like just 45 pages, and it has given real insights to life and beyond. Summarize few important dimensions from that book. In material life on this earth, the mental body, Shukshama Sharira of man, coexists with the physical body, and which has 4 components of mind. So that is anyway spoken in Hinduism. Also, as we seen now, it is also described in Brahma Kumaris, and even Buddhists call it as a stream of consciousness, probably contain these 4 parts, which is Man, the source of desires, longings, and aspirations. Buddhi, the discriminative faculty which deliberates, takes decisions, and seeks course of action. Ahankara, we all know this, appraisal of a person for oneself in the material world, example that he is so-and-so, rich, poor, wretched or fortunate, foolish or intelligent, etc., etc. And Chitta is similar to the sanskar, which stores inherent traits, habits, inclinations, and temperament. Chitta is converted into Chitragupta. Chitta means which is hiding inside. Gupta means hidden. So that's what they made it as Chitragupta. That was a concept from Pandit Sri Ram Acharya. So when a man is physically alive, the mental body remains only partly active with the first 2 exterior shells of the mind, name and man and buddhi, so which governs the activity of the physical body. The remaining 2 secret components remain subconscious when man is in the living state, whereas chitta and ahankara becomes active after death. But as the buddhi becomes silent at this stage, the inclinations, the chitta, drives the energy. So according to Sri Ram Sharma Acharya, the energy get attracted to the parents of similar mindset after some time spent in the universe and reborn as babies. Now, Vedatriyam, I don't need to explain what Vedatriyam talks about soul or what it talks about divine energy and genetic center. We all know, but I just put together some points which I think which is my understanding of Vedatriyam. I could be wrong, you can correct me if it is wrong. So Vedatriyam not talks about eternal soul, but talks about the transformative history of the divine energy, Suttaveli, transformed into wind particles by the surrounding pressure. And wind particles, because of the surrounding pressure and magnetism, forms the genetic center and so on. So material and immaterial, everything's formed from this wind particle. So according to us, again, genetic center holds the recordings of all activities, thoughts, and desires via Sanchita Prarabdha and Ahamya karmas. So all of these karmas have an impression in our genetic center. Not only that, every single thought gets recorded. So after leaving the body, the genetic center stays in the world as an independent entity before dissolving into the universal consciousness, which very well align with the scientific and philosophical thinking which we have seen before. And the genetic center get attracted to people of similar tendencies and merged with them, or it can merge with a child, but we don't think it is a rebirth. We think the energy field or the genetic center or the magnetism, whatever it's stored in there, all the content, which we can say karmas, which can't be just diluted into the universal consciousness until it has been exhausted or used. So it has to have a ways to completely dissolve itself or merge, and so that's why it is merging with the other similar tendency people. Again, it's closer. Only we don't just believe in rebirth, but we also believe or we don't say belief. That was a inference from our guru from his meditation. So this is the concept that the genetic center is kind of similar to the sanskars or the impressions, which anyway lives in the universe, and it has to be merged with some other people to solve its karmic accounts. So there is a similar concept I've read long before in Karma Yoga by Swami Vivekananda. What he talks about is human consciousness and collective consciousness, or anyway prevails in this universe. Every single thought gets into the universe and lives forever in the collective consciousness, because thought is an energy. It can't be destroyed or removed. As Vedatri always says, every thought will be materialized because the thought emerges from the divine. So a human being or any living being is a transformative energy of the divine. So it can't go waste. Only thing is it takes time, as we think hundreds and thousands of thoughts, so it won't immediately materialize. If it is not materialized in his lifetime, the thoughts still live, and it until it gets materialized, it just lives in the universe. That's what Swami Vivekananda is also talking. So those thoughts get attracted to people with similar thought pattern, and that is the reason good people become more good over time. The same way bad people get more bad over time, because all the bad vibrations or thoughts in the universe just go and connect with that person and increase their ideology. And also, if a person is so bad and he wanted to do some ill effect to other people, he can get ideas of n number of ideas from the universe. So because whoever thought about this kind of thinking before, everything comes to him and he gets new ideas. So for example, anyone having a suicidal thought will get attracted to thoughts of people who have already died. It may not be the actual ghosts or soul to them, it's just the thought before they die, whatever the emotions and thought were there, those are energies. They just live in the universe and get attracted to the people and make them suicide in a faster way. Okay, so we talked about philosophy, and we talked about religion, we talked about science. Everything talks about consciousness. So consciousness, from our understanding, we can say it's a samsara or sanskar or impression or genetic center. So it means the life energy is not only our desires and passions which we see externally, but also all the recordings and all the information so far carried into our minds and thoughts that form this genetic center. So which means life is genetic center. We just have to see a bit more deep into it. So what is a genetic center? Each activity of a person, whether mental, verbal, or physical, leaves an imprint on the soul. The sum and substance of these events, deeds, accompanies the life energies as its samskaras at the time of its departure from the physical body. Or during the body, it still gets accustomed, or it still adds on to the impressions. So that's how the cycle of impressions happen. Karma, every action, every thought generates a samskara or impression in our genetic center, which produces the tendencies, our inclinations, our desires, and that is the reason we think the way we think. So that is called vasana. Vasana drives the vritti. Vritti is the thought pattern. So again, it forms a karma. So we are just making it more stronger and stronger of our samskaras by doing the vasanas. If you think overall, human being is a habitual person, habitual people. When we go to a gym, we park in the place where we usually park, or when we go anywhere, we just follow a pattern. If we are using a particular cabinet, we regularly use it, and unless until it is not available, we don't go to a different place. So this constant habit makes the impressions more stronger and more stronger. That's why even after death or during the death, we can't change our actions. So that is the very reason yogis and sages are keep telling to leave the desires or just break the habits and change your activities every now and then. That's why they do Vriddhas and they do 48 days of penance and all other activities just to break our cycle of actions or impressions and the habits. So I had to think, what is there a difference between our sanskar and animal sanskar? Could be a possibility. And the answer is yes. Yeah, there are differences in human sanskar and animal sanskar. Because an animal life or live and die as an animal. By design, it can't change its sanskars. You can't ask a monkey to meditate or be calm. You can't ask a lion to not to be fierce. You can't ask a cow to race against an injustice happen to it. But whereas humans have the freedom to manipulate or change their attitudes, behaviors, perspectives, in short, we have the capacity to change our sanskars and we can endeavor to become God. So does that mean, is there a difference between God and a human sanskar? Yes and no. Because the only difference between God and human is the thought waves. The God or the Sutta Veli doesn't have any thought because it's not even started its first surrounding force and it's not started spinning, just the stillness. That stillness and the other side is not the stillness, it's the complete turmoil. That's the human mind. So when it comes to the mental frequencies, we call gamma, beta, alpha, theta, and delta. So when we go into the deep meditation in Turiya Dida, we go up to delta. If there is a possibility, we can go, more than delta, which is samadhi, we can bring this mental waves below this 1 to 3 hertz. If we can do this, we become stillness, we become Suddhavali, then that is God, which is equal to God. If a human can go below the delta wave state and yet if he can be fully aware and conscious, then that man is God. God doesn't have thoughts, yet he is the whole consciousness, universal consciousness. By regulating our desires, by reducing our needs, by regulating our thoughts, by doing years of meditation, we can achieve the calmness of the mind below delta waves and yet can be fully aware. That's when the universe opens its door to us. We can access anything in the universe without moving our little finger. Then we become omnipotent. Is it true how acceptable it is? Yes, it is true. It's been proven time and time by our sages. We have Padinan Sittargal in South India and 7 sages, Sabda Rishis in North India. And there are so many sages and rishis and munis have shown this to us. They had all the powers, siddhis, and potentials equal to God, and they can be the omnipotent. How they achieved, again, this is bestowed to us by our guru, the path how to become the divine. They could have achieved through the master key called mind, thoughts, and emotions. As we have seen, these are the sanskar, these are the genetic center. How we can access to that genetic center? Through our introspection, regulating our desires and emotions, improving the intrinsic characters, aruguna siramipu, years of practice of yoga and meditation. That's what our beloved guru has bestowed to us. We should make use of it thoroughly in this lifetime so that we can become the divine. So I just would like to summarize what we have seen so far. So consciousness is separate.
Breakdown of some fatty acid into amino acids.
Mm-hmm.
So metabolism, okay.
Consciousness is separate from this physical body. Cosmic consciousness and human consciousness are one and the same. We can access the cosmic consciousness and become the cosmic consciousness by purifying and reducing our thought vibrations. The doorway to reach divinity is our mind and thoughts, which are the building blocks of our desires, instincts, tendencies, and inclination. In other words, our sanskars, which ultimately binds us to the material world. By bringing our thought vibrations below delta waves and keeping it 24/7, if possible, we can become omnipotent. We open the door of cosmic consciousness. We attain nirvana and moksha. So what's the take home from this presentation? The master's key is our take home, and the master's key is our genetic center. Aham Brahmasmi. Thank you. And is there any questions, or am I too fast, or?
Thank you, Hari. It's a very good presentation. If anyone wants to ask any question, please put your hands up.
Amma.
Oh.
If there are no questions to be asked, could we do the Ulaga Nalavatpu and finish the lectures? Sakti, shall
Sure.
we?
Yes. Thank you, Hari. Very nice presentation.
Okay.
I'm sure people are still thinking about it, and we will have other opportunities to discuss this as well. Thank you so much for the enlightening, for sharing your thoughts. We will
Thank you.
finish the session with Ulanala Valtu. உலகமெல்லாம் பருவமழை ஒத்தபடி பெய்யட்டும், உழவரெல்லாம் தானியத்தை உவப்புடனே பெருக்கட்டும், பல தொழில்கள் புரிகின்ற பாட்டாளி உயரட்டும், பகுத்துணர்வில் தொகுத்துணர்வு பண்பாட்டை உயர்த்தட்டும், கலகங்கள் போட்டி பகை கடந்தாட்சி நடக்கட்டும், கல்லாமை கடன் வறுமை கழகங்கள் மறையட்டும், நலவாழ்வை அளிக்கும் மெய் ஞான ஒளி வீசட்டும், நம் கடமை அறவாழ்வின் நாட்டத்தே சிறக்கட்டும், நம் கடமை அறவாழ்வின் நாட்டத்தே சிறக்கட்டும், நம் கடமை அறவாழ்வின் நாட்டத்தே சிறக்கட்டும். வாழ்க வையகம், வாழ்க வையகம், வாழ்க வளமுடன்.
I have a final announcement. Next week, Smart Director, Senior Professor Damodaran Ayya will give us a lecture. So we look forward to that. Is that Dr. Sakti is okay?
That's right. The Smart Director is joining us next week on the topic of Fate and Knowledge. Vidiyum Madiyum என்ற தலைப்புல ஐயா பேசிருக்காங்க. Please try and join the session as many people as we can. ஐயா, we can conclude the meditation session.
ஆமா. வாழ்க வையம்.
வாழ்க வளமுடன்.
Thank you, Hari and Udayan.
வாழ்க வளமுடன். Thank you.
வாழ்க வளமுடன்.